Borderlands is one of the worst movies and disastrous video game movies of the year. Nothing much to bring up this intro, but we're going to be deep diving its disastrous behind the scenes and review of this movie and comparison to the video games themselves. So buckle up for this episode right now.
I scream, you scream for movies, and that's the way we do it.
What is good? What is going on, movie fans? Welcome to I Screened, You Scream for number 4 movies. I'm your host, Danny Escamilaggi. Before we get started into the review, do not forget to subscribe to the podcast or wherever you're listening on. I'm also on YouTube as well. Subscribe there as well. And don't forget to follow my social media platforms, Twitter and TikTok. They'll both be in the show notes, as well as my Letterboxd, available for more review in-depth purposes. But ladies and gentlemen, I was proposed to do this episode by myself, but I just got great news because I wanted to have this man on my show. And for this type of movie, I had to get him on, and we planned this for many months ago. So, guys, he is here. He's not a podcaster, but he is a strong-willed Borderlands fan for this episode. So, everybody, this is Matt. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. So thank you for joining here today. I cannot wait to break down this Borderlands review. So before we get started with this review, I gotta ask you a question. Of course, people want to know, how long have you been a Borderlands fan for?
Let's see. So, if I'm not mistaken, the very first game came out in the year 2009, and I started playing it probably within 6 months after its release when one of my buddies that I grew up with got it on his Xbox 360 and was like, hey, you got to check out this game. And we played it for hours. And I've been in love with the series ever since. On and off through the years, obviously, but, I love the series. It's probably top 5 favorite franchises of all time. Hundreds of thousands of hours on it across all platforms, beaten just about every single game in this game, all the games in the series except for the Tales games, and I'm almost finished with the pre-sequel as we speak.
You are officially a diehard for sure. You've been a diehard Borderlands all your life, and you know what? I respect. It's almost like I have similar faith to like a series I grew up with. I just can't name something on top of my head, but that's respectable. You love grinding the series, and I generally feel bad because what we're going to this review for, the movie Borderlands, is finally out. Before we jump dive, this has been developed since 2015 from Lionsgate. The movie's pitched from a while ago in 2011, and then Lionsgate decides to pick up, and this has been going on a lot of years. So if anything, it's like Lionsgate doesn't know who to trust, doesn't know who to hire, and doesn't know how to collab well, which is the number one kind of thing. You make a video game movie, you got to collab with someone. You got to collab with anyone at this point that completely knows what they're doing. So there's been different screenwriters and directors at this point. So they got this script in 2020 by Craig Mazin, talented screenwriter who did The Last of Us and Chernobyl and other films like The Hangovers. Then Lionsgate hired the Gore Fest director, Eli Roth. So as much as he's a very good Gore Fest director for a lot of his films, Cabin Fever, Hostel, his Thanksgiving movie came out last year. I had a blast with it. But the most thing he's really off about is how he writes the screens. So technically speaking, the script that Craig Mazin had and written for the movie is completely butchered by Eli Roth, who sort of doesn't have knowledgeable faith into the games, which is pretty one of the bad things for this guy. And going to this movie, there's been a lot of ups and downs. The production history, the writing room of this movie, and the reshoots, which is a bad sign that they kind of messed up the movie. And look, this is before I play the game. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know behind the scenes. of me loving this franchise. I got into the games this year, so if anything, the first. Let me ask you this real quick. Sorry, the trailer came out in February. How does it really appeal to you when the trailer dropped for Borderlands?
I watched the trailer about 100 times just out of pure excitement for the movie and the hope that it would be what the Sonic movies and the Mario movie were in terms of great, amazing video game adaptations of movies. I never personally got to see Uncharted, so I can't speak on that one, but I heard good things on that
Mediocre.
movie.
It's mediocre and it's not bad, so I can't say it's the greatest, but it's right up to the faithful movies. So if anything, at least they got some stuff right. Yeah, Uncharted,
But
good comp.
I was excited as can be from that first trailer. I could not wait.
The same thing with me. It's like a fresh video game adaptation makes me get so hyped and so boiled into it. Like, yeah, I watch this trailer like 1,000 times, like every day up to this point forward. That's how excited I was for like a
My
summer
mom actually
movie.
yelled at me for it because she's like, have you watched that enough?" Because I was watching it so much at the house and the audio was coming through and she was getting sick of it.
Dude, I mean, I watch this by myself all the time, and it's like I don't get bothered from this. So, yeah, the trailer. So, just a question: does it feel like a Guardians of the Galaxy type movie to you, by any chance, of a trailer?
The trailer, when I first saw it, did not scream Guardians. But as time went on and more footage got released, it sort of turned into baby's first Guardians, to
Well,
put it nicely.
yeah, that's the thing they're trying to aim for, is to make a rip-off Guardians of the Galaxy. And now, here's what I'll say: this isn't terrible at all of a take, because I mean, James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy will always be superior. Period. But with this behind the scene drama of writing and everything, the reshoots, like I said, up to this point, I got into the games this late June. And as I started to have fun with them, a wind knocked to my chest that this started to turn me around and started to make me worry. I
And I got
learned
to
what's
witness all of this.
I got to understand what the negatives from like the reception online from the hardcores. People are saying it's garbage. People are skeptical on the cast. And look, the cast is one thing people were complaining on this movie. And I thought they were just interesting. But time went on. I started to really realize this looks bad. So, especially this movie, even with whatever the behind the scenes drama with the studio of Lionsgate and Eli Roth, the reshoots as well, the PG-13 rating was in this movie, and the games were rated M for mature. One thing to put it up is how stupid it was. And I told you about this, and you were so peaceful with this rating, like it just got. And I started to believe it doesn't make sense as time go on, because Borderlands, based on the games, is based on the violence of hard over the top madness. It's not
I
like Deadpool or
was
anything, but this could have been just Deadpool violence all over in this movie for how violent it was.
I was peaceful not necessarily by choice, but because I realized the studio of Lionsgate probably wasn't going to do what the Sonic filmmakers did and try and change anything about it. So I realized, just based off of the reception, how I saw a lot of the hardcores giving issues on it, and Lionsgate kind of brushing it off, that nothing was going to change. So I was forced to come to terms with it. Was never really happy with it, but I'm just like, there's no changing it. Might as well just accept it and move on.
Yeah, that's terrible, because I mean, it does hinder the quality as well, and reviews and receptions are extremely terrible. Like, very bad to the equivalent. Like right now, for what I checked last on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at 9%. And then the audience score is like 50 something, which, by the way, it's got a D plus cinema score. It's terrible.
It's been a
And
long time since I've walked into a movie, and I'm not joking. I walked into the movie, the first few scenes started, and I cringed.
Oh yeah, let's get to this movie. I mean, we don't want to keep everyone waiting, but yeah. So, as a guest, Matt, quickly elaborate before we dive into topics. What did you think of this movie, and was it just a giant video game mess?
So from what I'm getting from my notes here, as far as a video game adaptation of a movie goes, if you are not a fan of the series, go out and watch it. You're gonna love it. It was a great movie if you're not a fan of the series and if you don't know anything about it. But if you were a fan of the series like me, or just someone who's played enough to know, this movie, in my opinion, was more bad than it was mid, but it was just nothing what Borderlands even is. Not in the slightest. You know it's bad that my favorite casting wasn't even a main character.
And who is this casting be? I'm guessing. Yeah, go ahead.
It was Marcus. My favorite casting was
Marcus.
Marcus. That was the original voice of Marcus.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we can go to spoilers because this movie bombs and it's not gonna have repeat viewing. So
Okay, that makes it even better because I have so much here. Because I know it wasn't supposed to be lore accurate, but there's so much here that just knowing so much of the lore, it pained me to see it be wrong. So, and also just because I know you had on the previous podcast that you were on recently, you guys are showing the ticket buyouts for this movie.
I was on the BO Boys podcast. I sent you the clip, the
Yep.
episode only to the part where we're talking about Borderlands. You know, shout out to the BO Boys. Go listen to them, you guys. Check them out. But
So just
yeah.
off of that, I wanted to make a note. There was only 10 to 12 people in this theater watching this movie.
Your theater, right?
My theater.
Okay. Mine, it was like around that too. I mean, yeah, walk-ups happened right at the day of this movie came, which usually happens for movies like that isn't crowded.
So one of the lore accurate things or inaccurate things that really got me is, at least how I interpret it, Sanctuary. Sanctuary never was an Atlas, like, Atlas never controlled Sanctuary at any point during the history of Pandora. Sanctuary was an Atlas Dow, or no, not Atlas, a Dow mining base camp. It was an area where the Dow Corporation came in, took over, and sort of made a small little civilization so their miners could have a place to live while they were mining, trying to open the first vault in the first game.
Yeah, like right to the lores, this is so inaccurate. Well, back to Eli Roth real quick with this writing. I told you, I don't know if I told you, but I saw this interview quick in a clip that he doesn't think of the games. What he just wrote based on whatever he's seen of sci-fi movies. He combined Star Wars, Mad Max, Fifth Elements, Escape from New York, and little of Guardians of the Galaxy, of course. But I mean,
You see,
in that sense, I mean, with this castings, of course, they're so off to the point where, and those kind of personalities they casted, and the writing screenplay just doesn't feel the same as these games. It's just terrible.
That's a good directing stance to have when you're making a movie based off nothing.
Based on nothing.
But when you're claiming it to be a video game adaptation movie, you don't go into it that way. But you're just asking for it to burn. You're just going to burn it to the ground at that point. There's no good way to go about it if you're coming into a video game adaptation movie that way. There's no turning back.
Here's many things about this movie they also got wrong. I mean, as a film itself, the editing department blows. Like, look, the action sequences were okay-ish, but it's
the action sequences are my favorite parts of the movie.
I mean, okay. I mean, that's something. I mean,
those were the only parts of the movie I liked.
Yeah, I liked it too. At least it was entertaining and it wasn't this bad. I mean, of course, at least it wasn't just shaky or anything, but it just got some weird edits at least. But the cinematography doesn't seem good. The VFX and visual CGI isn't the best at times. The movie itself is so rushed. It doesn't got time to explain characters. It doesn't got time to build the world lores
That's
of
that's
Pandora.
that's another thing I didn't like. How quickly they were going from location to location to location,
Exactly.
just jumping. I'm like, there's no travel. You're barely. I mean, what was it? They went from Pisswash Gully right to Sanctuary like that. Oh, what?
And then, oh my God. I mean, like Eli Roth isn't a type of director or writer who just doesn't care how to build pieces. Instead, he throws whatever in the fun of it, like expecting just dumb chemistry, just going straight to the fun is what he does. I mean, look, I respect that, and that's his thing. But if you're gonna open up a video game movie of like Borderlands, like for example, you gotta set an open part to it of like such rich part to open up a locational setting that people want to know about. I mean, like
They
let me
had
just bring let me bring King of the Planet of the Apes real quick. That pacing takes time, but the world setting is set perfectly. Wes Ball just knows how to like craft just basically craft and start a movie like how the world currencies after the previous trilogy, right? So going to Borderlands, Eli Roth just doesn't build the world in like that. He just throws whatever and just throws the fun out of it. Like in the Borderlands movie, that's just not good.
in my opinion, they had the perfect opening to this movie handed to them on a silver platter. You have now played 1 and 2. How does each and every Borderlands game start?
Marcus always narrates the Vault Hunters, and instead, Lilith is the narrator of this movie. Like what? Oh my god!
They could have easily had some sort of, because if they wanted to go this non-lore accurate route, have Marcus start off explaining the lore side of this movie to an extent, and then go into it, and it would have made the movie more likable, in my opinion, from a fan perspective. But they decided to just forget all that. Which, I mean, if Eli Roth just didn't even play the games, then that explains a lot why he didn't do that.
He didn't. It's terrible. It's just bad. Whatever that anyone gets hired and they don't know what they're doing. Like the point is, the Borderland fans, including you, have been on a serious drought since the second game in terms of quality. I mean, the pre-sequel I heard wasn't that bad, but in the third game, I heard many things on the humor and dialogue. It's pretty bad. I
So
mean,
the pre-sequel got a lot of hate when it first came out.
okay, so that's the start of
A
that then,
lot of,
basically.
but as time has gone on, the fan base, while it's still not the pinnacle of the series, it is looked back upon more fondly.
Yeah, because Handsome Jack, who's the villain of this franchise, is such a great character, and I feel like I
I
wish
personally love Borderlands 3. I have put probably just as much time into Borderlands 3 as I have Borderlands 2.
I just got started to Borderlands 3 before we got on air, so I mean, I'm about to like play a little bit and just probably move on to other games too. But like, if anything, I'm trying to see what the deal with this game is and how bad it is. So I mean, it looks fun so far. At least I just got
The
started.
gameplay is fun. It's really only the story. And if you can push the story to the side, and because the gameplay is so much fun, it's easy for me to push the story aside and just play the game and have a blast.
That's how I'm
Because
gonna
it's
go
just the
into that.
main story. The DLCs in Borderlands 3 are so much fun.
Oh yeah, and they
The DLC stories are so much fun. They're better than the main story. I'm not even lying.
Oh man, I mean, okay, so hey, like if there's anything about Eli Roth, I mean, okay, I'm gonna just say that he did a shitty job. He just didn't care about the games. He just threw in whatever of his own versions. He messed up the script that was so talented written by somebody. And the fact is, I don't know if I told you, Craig Mason just asked his name to be removed off the writing room because He wasn't part of this rewrite. He just felt terrible of what this whole script was going to be. And just to point this out, there were even showing this rated R, but Lionsgate, after what, test screenings or something, decides to force this post-production of this movie to be toned down. Oh my God, it's fucking terrible. I mean, look, kids may play Borderlands, but did you know how many kids see Deadpool in the past weeks ago? Lots of kids went to see Deadpool.
I'd say
Explains the
majority of
giant
people at my theaters.
explains gigantic opener. It made 200 plus million. I mean, look, doesn't really fucking matter if it's going against Deadpool because there is room for like a video game movie. But the problem is it's been shitty from the start. The marketing department's terrible. We'll just go in the box office for a bit, but like everything around it from the start is the reason why it looked terrible. It's off. Everything was off. Even the movie itself, after the trailers, which I thought there was something until I got into the games and hearing the reviews, is a complete forgettable experience. Like I didn't have a blast until like the action and that's it. But like nothing else. But so forgettable. Oh man. But speaking of forgettable, shall we go to the castings real quick? Because
I have a lot done on the castings.
Oh my God. Okay, so I will ask basic questions to if they fit or not. Just like a 1, 2, 3 question. Okay. Kate Blanchett, which is a great start because Kate Blanchett hired to do this movie for whatever reason. COVID, trying to get a paycheck, but she committed by getting a PlayStation to play this game. Great part on her end. For her part, she was decent. Now, I know she's a little older, and Lilith is supposed to be this younger than her, but Kate Blanchett really did. And by the way, Oscar award actress, one of the best actresses in the generations. I don't know if you know, but
hands down. No, I've seen a lot of Kate Blanchett.
Hands down, exactly. But she took this seriously. But the one thing they kept her and the all cast couldn't do is the script. It's just bad. But in her acting, I mean, she nailed Lilith pretty well. So if anything,
she nailed Lilith amazingly. Kate Blanchett and one of the other characters we're gonna get to later, in my opinion, were the standouts of this movie, considering the script they were given.
So, Kate Blanchett fits Lilith in this movie.
Yes. Especially after what I saw in the ending, I was smiling ear to ear. And
yeah. I was. Yeah.
Like, okay, so this is making.
Okay. On to the next. Kevin Hart, Roland. I thought this was just whatever casting, and then a lot of fans, including you, picked on this guy 24/7, and he's just nothing but Kevin Hart. Go ahead. I mean, I was gonna say my answer is he doesn't fit. He does not fit this character. Go ahead.
I love Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is probably my favorite stand-up comedians. I've seen him in Jumanji. I go and see him in every movie he's in. But as far as Roland is, I'll give him credit where it's due. He played Roland better than what I thought he would and what I was expecting. But he was by far not the correct casting choice for Roland. He was still too comical and quick-witted. And as someone who's played the Borderlands games for many years, Roland is the exact opposite of that. He's so dry in his humor, and his delivery does not pick up on sarcasm or anything. Just a wrong casting choice there with Roland. I love Kevin Hart, but he was not it.
Jack Black as Claptrap. I'm going to say, as much as Claptrap is getting pretty annoying based on the reception of his character, I think he's all right. And I know a lot of people miss the other actor who voiced Claptrap from the games, but Jack Black did pretty fine as far as I can tell. So I'm going to say he fits for the best. What do you think of Jack Black as Claptrap?
So actually, I forgot about Claptrap. Claptrap, I'll put him at the third best casting choice they made in this movie. For what he was, he played Claptrap perfectly. all the way down to Claptrap's humor, in my personal opinion. Just with the snarky comments and well, I don't really pick up on humor or sarcasm, so I can't tell if you're actually being truthful or not. It was just funny. Claptrap made me chuckle on a handful of occasions throughout this movie.
I don't think he made me laugh throughout this movie for sure. I just
I
knew
have a
how
very
awful
childish
the
sense of
humor
humor.
was. I knew how awful the humor was, and it was clearly unfunny, so I didn't just chuckle a lot. So I mean,
I have a
claptrap, I guess.
I have a childish sense of humor, and Claptrap is hands down one of my favorite characters inside the series. So I just loved, and I like Jack Black. Jack Black is. I grew up on Kung Fu Panda.
Bowser from Super Mario. Credibility on that.
hmm
Ariana Greenblatt as Tiny Tina. Now, as much she fits because of her size, her age, Tiny Tina is like a kid or something. I don't know how old she is. The writing of this character is not Tiny Tina material. But the best she could with the script, she does seem to fit. So I'm going to say yes. What do you think of Ariana Greenblatt in this movie as Tiny Tina?
Personality wise, what I have in my notes is she is toned down so much, but I can see at the core, it seems like she might have tried to explore the games a little bit. I don't
Yeah,
know how
she
true
did that her
that is.
part. That's good on her.
Because I could see she was trying to bring as much of that character into the movie as she could for what was written. Because the badonkadonks that she mentions in the movie, the the stuffed bunny bombs that she has,
That's
it's
true.
and if you play through Borderlands 2, you literally go on a mission where you have to collect her badonkadonks.
Yes. That's one of them I just played too. So, I mean, hey, they got some material down at least. I mean, hey. So she fits as Tiny Tina, even if the script wasn't good.
hmm
All right. My favorite character. And look, I seem to be hyped on this guy. And you know what? He's a fan of this character, and he took a lot of convincing to play him. Florian Montananu from the Creed movies and Shang-Chi plays the fan favorite and my favorite character going to this movie before the games, Krieg. I will say, the personality of what Krieg is, he nailed it. But the problem is the writing, of course, and this PG-13 rating does take away some aspects. But because Florian really took this character deep to the core, and he doesn't talk a lot either, so I'm gonna say he fits. What do you think of Florian as Krieg?
This is a slippery slope with me
Okay.
because so I think for the script that he was given, he did amazing. My issue comes in from what I could see. So in the Borderlands lore, Krieg sort of suffers from split personality disorder to an extent due to how he became Krieg. He was once subjected to iridium experiments, which split his personality. The Psycho Krieg that you're familiar with from playing Borderlands 2 controls his body, but his original personality is now his conscience. And what we saw in this movie was sane Krieg, and all Eli Roth did for his writing was just copy and paste sound bites from Psycho Krieg into the script, which to me brought down this character as a whole in the movie. Because when you think Krieg, you don't think sane Krieg. You think
Exactly.
Psycho Krieg.
Psycho Krieg, like the psychos are. Yeah, exactly.
I will say they got the psychos down great in the movie. The bloodshots, amazing.
What they didn't get down is how Krieg kills in terms of like bloods of gore. I mean, I don't understand why they took away from that. I mean, I enjoyed Krieg in this movie, but sometimes I wish the violence was there so
hmm
much. I'm literally curious why they just tone it down for literal reasons. It's stupid. So I mean, hey, the actor did a good job, but you know, Krieg is not the same as the games
I'll,
with
I'll
the
say
violence. So
I'll say Florian as Krieg. It's nothing against him personally, but in my opinion, it was mid to bad.
Okay. Last cast member.
Had potential
We
though.
we all a lot of fans been calling her the version of Dr. Patricia Tanis. I don't know if you've seen comments all over, but lots of people are calling her Grandma. Grandma
Oh.
Patricia Tanis. She's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Look, I have to say it's the dumbest casting ever because as soon as I seen her presence and how she sounds like, how she looks like compared to Patricia in the games, as a young age of Patricia in the games, I just didn't care. I just turned it off. I just don't give a fuck. What did you think of Jamie Lee Curtis otherwise?
So, two things. They, in the movie, they made Lilith's mom, and I'll get into Tanis, that connects here, so I'm not going on a rant. Lilith's mom was Tanis in this movie. The mom that passed away was working for Doll. In the games, as you know, Tanis was never, and I mean never, Lilith's guardian or parental figure.
Never. That's the thing I kind of got confused on. Oh man, that's some generic writing there.
And same with Tina. Her backstory on how she became how she was totally different than what they said in the movie. I can go into that if
Exactly.
you want me to. But literally in my notes, verbatim, I said Jamie. Nothing against her as an actor. She's been in some great movies throughout
Laurie
her career.
Strode, Halloween. That's all she's
She
known for.
literally played Grandma Tanis. That's verbatim.
Uh,
And throughout most of the scenes that she was in, I just couldn't wait till they were over. I wanted it because I just saw Grandma Tanis up there the entire time. I was waiting for her to ask if someone wanted food or something. It just I don't know. It didn't fit.
it didn't fit. Well, um, so you and I agree. Kate fits, Jack Black, Ariana Greenblatt, Florian fits this movie just fine. The others could have been better on the casting, anyways, even if the script was terrible. But all right, well, just for that, yeah, I feel like most of the characters and the chemistries were very lacklusting as well. The lores were even just accurate. The character development was terrible with the script. That's another thing as well. So, man, does it really pains me to shame I didn't really had a good time with what the characters were and the chemistries were. It's pretty awful.
The movie had so much potential. I'm actually upset that it released in the state it did.
Can't believe it. Anyways, yeah. So, Matt, deep question: if you were a filmmaker, a director, writer, you name it, how would you do a Borderlands movie, and what would you do?
Not what Eli Roth did, first of all, just to start off. So in that alternate universe where I am a film director and this movie already came out, I will distance myself and make this movie not be connected to this one in any way. I don't know in terms of casting because I've told you a million times before, I'm terrible when it comes to actors. I wouldn't know who to cast. I'd probably say Florian was a good choice on Krieg if he was given the correct script. And but I'd make it lore accurate. I mean, how can you not? I mean, make a movie, put Handsome Jack in there. We've talked countless times of who we think could play Handsome Jack in a movie. I mean, he's ranked top 5 video game villains of all time on just about every list that you go on to. You have it in the palm of your hands. Use that.
Uh, is that it? Is that everything you mentioned? Okay, so you would make the lore as accurate, and you bring in Handsome Jack, which great villain because I told you who could have played this character just well if this was going to be an actual better movie. And I told you, and I told you numerous times, and I sent you a video clip of this actor, and you told me he's got the charisma, the cockiness.
Oh, I saw that within 30 seconds of the clip of the what was it, 4-minute video you sent me. I got
Yeah,
got
yeah. And
all that
what's the
within
actor's
30
name I told you
seconds.
about?
Oh God, I'm terrible at names, so you're gonna have to help me out here.
Glenn Powell. He would have fit
Yes.
Handsome Jack just great. Look at the style of his acting. If this was going to be a better movie, or if this was going to be, there was going to be another movie in the future that can reboot it away from this movie. Glenn Powell, somebody has to know the games, and somebody has to understand this franchise. This is not even easy.
Or at least bring
So,
someone as like a co-director to kind of like consult throughout the making.
hey, anyone they can work with, they know. But unlike Randy Pitchford, long story short, but if anything, Glenn Powell would have been great as Handsome Jack in this
Hmm.
movie. Otherwise, and I would bring back Florian. You would bring back Florian. Good choice. I think he would get a second chance and just try to nail his character. I
If
think
you
you
could
could bring
bring
back.
him,
You
if
could
you could
bring
bring him
back.
the original voice of Claptrap, I'd say bring him in. But
Would
Jack
you
Black would be serviceable.
would you bring Ariana Greenblatt back? But I know she's getting older now at this point. She's like 16 now.
So the thing is with that, so it all depends on what aesthetic you're going for. If you're going for Borderlands 2 Tina, she might not fit in a few years. But if you're going for Borderlands 3 Tina, she's gonna fit.
Right, she gets older in this games. Right, of course. Oh, okay. So, yeah. Look, I like that you mentioned that you could have wrote this lore accurate better. You could bring Handsome Jack in. Yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a reboot anyways. I think the franchise is already DOA. I don't know how this is going to be with Borderlands 4 coming. I don't think it's the fact is I don't know. Randy Pitchford at Gearbox Studios has a lot of way to work through and win their fans back, including you.
I
And
I
I'm
plead with Gearbox, please listen to the feedback from your fans on Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 at its end is in a way better state gameplay wise and across the board than it was at launch. But you have the perfect foundation set. If you take what you learned from each of the games and take what each of those games did best, Borderlands 1 with the atmosphere, 2 with the story, pre-sequel with the DLC, and 3 with the gameplay, and combine all that, you will have the fans eating out of the palm of your hands once again, like you did when Borderlands 2 was at its peak.
We hopefully to see where the series goes. It was prime and then it went downward hill, so we'll see about that. All right, well, that's everything we talked about. I mean, overall, Borderlands. I mean, what I rate this? I rate this 4 out of 10, 2 stars. Do you have anything? Do you have a rating system you go for the stars and the score?
I'll just copy you here. 2.5, no 1 star.
2.5. Oh, 2.5 out of 10, and then 1 star.
Yep.
You said?
Yep.
Wow, way lower than me. Okay. Well, Matt, thank you again. It's been a long, almost half hour episode, but I guess any Borderlands reboot, I'll love to have you on again. But
I'd be
otherwise,
glad to come on.
I say don't expect this anytime soon. I mean, hey, it's awesome to bring you on, and I wanted to do this episode with you. It's such a long time since we planned this, so hey,
Mhm.
thank you so much, man. I
You sent
really
me a
had a
text
good time.
really close after that first trailer came out about, hey, you're a big Borderlands fan.
I'm
You want
proud
to
to
come
be a
on?
Borderlands fan, but I came in the wrong timing. So that's the
And
thing. I always came in the wrong time with these stuff, and they just get worse. So
I will say, I give you a lot of credit. There's going to be a lot of movie reviewers going out there who never played the games. You took the time out of your own personal life and whatever you have going on to immerse yourself into this franchise that you've never touched before, so you could better judge the movie correctly instead of going in with no knowledge. And I
exactly.
commend you greatly for that.
I appreciate you being my coach for this because hey, we've been talking back and forth in this game, and yeah. So my wings are set off to this movie. So yeah. Otherwise, everybody to conclude this episode, don't waste your time with this movie. Play the fucking games. They're better lore accurate, and way better than you think. Don't fucking waste your time with this garbage. Probably one of the worst movies of the year. So
Go play
otherwise,
Borderlands 2. You'll enjoy it way more.
play Borderlands 2. It's way better. But anyways, guys, thank you for this episode. to listen if you tuned in. And Matt, thank you for coming on the show.
No
And
problem. Anytime.
everyone, if you enjoyed this episode and you enjoyed the show, subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review on Apple, helps listeners find the show. I'm on YouTube as well, so check out the hoodie I'm representing right here. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is Sephiroth. And I only wore this to the movie because Final Fantasy movie is all I want and all I think about. And Matt, you'll also get to see our faces on there too. You'll get to see my face, the Sephiroth hoodie, and Matt, are you wearing a Steelers shirt? Because I do have a listener who's a Steelers fan. Hey, my man Ak, if you're listening to this, he's a Steelers fan. So
I heard since day one.
Subscribe to the YouTube if you don't want to get the whole story of seeing our faces. And social media wise, follow me on Twitter X, follow me on TikTok. I'll be posting post content of video clips, in-depth thoughts on movies on TikTok. So you can find me on the contents there. And speaking of that, I'm so tired. I got to get off the air because Matt, you and I, after this episode drops the next day or so, you and I will be setting this franchise to the sunset, and we're going to be playing Borderlands 3, you and I, as we get off air. So, as one way to say, play the games. Don't waste your time with this garbage movie of Eli Roth. He can eat a dick for all I care. That's one way to put it, and that's one way to end this episode. But guys, until then, subscribe to the podcast for the next review of Alien Romulus. I'm actually excited for this movie, so stay subscribed if you're interested to follow up. But until then, guys, this is Danny Escamlaji signing off of I Scream, You Scream for number 4 for movies. Until then, stay screaming for the movies, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.